Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes, get those notifications out, let people know that I've gone live. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And as of late, I have been exploring both. One that I usually do physically, I am doing it virtually. It is in the planning of my big trip coming up in September. So grateful because it is a lot of fun planning that vacation. Not really having an idea of budget because my sister is in control of that money and we have just been stockpiling that money every opportunity that we can get. And it is to my benefit that we add to that stockpile because, right, I dream big. Every year I do this trip and it gets bigger and bigger every year, but not just bigger as in the dazzle and amaze of it, but in the dazzle and amaze of it, I explore the inside and the outside. And it's the one time of the year that I truly get to go off by myself, with myself, right? And just let absolutely everything, and I mean it when I say that. When I get in that vehicle and I am on the road, right? I was going to say, it's all left behind. Everything. It's just me and myself. But also at the same time, we are working on this brand, and it's important for me to make that reward that I'm giving to myself every September, that I make that reward, not just make that reward, want to share that reward, that experience, because it's the evidence, right? In my mind, in my soul, in my life, and it might seem minuscule to some people, but to me, it's the proof. To me, it's the evidence that I can be the creator of my own life. That some aspects of our lives that we don't get a say in. All we can do, it's like that coffee cup I had yesterday. Just ride the waves, make the best of it that we possibly can. But sometimes we are inspired, sometimes we are kicked upside the head so many times that it's hard to deny what that expectation of that next move should be, right? And grateful that that I'm actually getting to that point where I'm giving myself those lessons, right? That wasn't something that I learned out there, though initially it would have been something that was pounded at me consistently, often, right? But it wasn't getting through. And somehow, over that course of patterning, of the course of having the same message, right? Being the stumbling block in my movement, in that experimenting and experiencing, that we stumble on to answers once in a while. That's all influence, you guys. That's our word this week. And after today, we have one more word, and I feel like I'm just touching on this word influence because we live in a digital age right now that this word 100 years ago would have meant, right? Read a book. Read a book. Talk to somebody. But in this digital age, I have been making my movement through this movement of digital, this movement of technical, right? This movement where we truly get to experience firsthand that it truly does take all kinds to make the world, because, right, we're no longer tens of thousands of miles and kilometers away from each other. We're this close. We're together in this moment. And, right, everybody's vying for our attention, right? I'm vying for your attention. That introduction that I come into my life, da 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 da, that is in that, whoa, what's that? That's that, that's that moment that I created in the optimistic idea that if I caught your attention there, that maybe you'll give me another 5 seconds, right, to make an impact, to, right, think of something smart, or say something interesting, or mesmerize you with a story or an experience. All of that is an opportunity to make an imprint. Right? My imprint. Hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And when we look at this word influence, today I have to look at that target audience, right? Who am I trying to influence? Who am I trying to impact? Yes, I'm sharing kind of my life. I'm sharing my story. I'm sharing in that optimistic idea that I could be that evidence for somebody else. And if I could be that evidence for somebody else, that's my belief. That's my goal. That's my dream being realized. Right? That's the evidence for me. It's that never ending, right, connection that we have for each other, that we're just all moving, right? And we're just all moving like this, but some people are moving woo, and some people are just. And the unfortunate thing is, there are some people who are just, right, because we're moving, we're passing you by, right? We're smiling at you, we're offering up a friendly hand, a shoulder to cry on, a job opportunity, in that caregiving of others, in that service to others. And it sounds hokey because it's not how I came into the game, right? I came into the game and trying to make my YouTube the roof over my head, right? And then stumbling onto an idea that you gotta love, right? Your job. You gotta love what you pursue in that everyday pursuit of something better. And then that just led to something else, and then another thought, and a new character, and a new person with a new insight, and then somebody with another insight, and you go, whoa. Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense. And yet you've been making some sense out of that your entire life. But because you've allowed yourself to be open to the possibilities, that you recognize that you're no longer, right, thousands and thousands of miles away from the source, that you're possibly only this far away from the source, from the answer, from the solution, from the problem. In my case, right? There was a lot of that. Oh my goodness. That's what happened. Oh my goodness. Really? Oh my goodness. I'm never going to admit that happened. No way. But it is. in those failures, and it is showing up here, right? In those stumbling alongs, in those failures, in those, right? I once thought that way, and I think this way. I once lived that way, but now I live this way. And understanding that I'm sitting in the midst of choices, that any moment I could say, I'm going to live that way. I'm going to live that way. I'm not going to live this way. And it's like I said, it's just never ending. And we see ourselves, right? All along the way, passing by ourselves, right? Many times. And I say ourselves because that was me, right? That was me, right? I'm just passing because, right? I've had that lesson already, right? If you need my help, my hand is there. If you need my shoulder's there. Stop every once in a while. You ready? Sometimes, right, we are comfortable in where we're at. And sometimes we think we don't got the answers when truly the answers are just this close, right? So I had to look at my target audience. My target audience is the audience that's going to choose me, is the audience that's going to understand and get me, right? Not necessarily being the same as me, right? And if you are, well, let me know so I can make a slight adjustment, right? And I was thinking about that today too, how I'm always looking for everything to accommodate me, to make room for me, to adjust themselves to me, right? And I was going to say, because I do that for others, right? But in those lessons, and as we pass people, we got to recognize that, right? Some people just don't have that lesson yet. And it's okay just to go on, right? And leave them to that lesson with the optimistic idea that they are going to get it or they're not going to get it. And if they don't get it, well, you're going to pass them again, right? There's that opportunity at any moment to make a different choice, right? And sometimes we do need to just be standing still. Sometimes we do need to be the spectator. That's the truth, right? I would have not recognized the difference between something right and something wrong if I wasn't the spectator, not just the experiencer, not just the student, because right, there are different opinions between what's right and what's wrong, but for ourselves. And this is where I gotta sit, right, I have to sit there because I need to see for myself. I need to experience for myself. I have to learn from myself, right? Because only I know myself, and I can only judge what's right for me, right? I can't allow anybody else to judge for me, my direction, my movements, my beliefs, right? That's influence, right? That's high up there, right? That's right. You just can't take it from anybody because everybody is vying for our attention. Da 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 da, right? And I'm grateful that you spend a few minutes with me or hang out with me for the whole life. I'm good with that. Hello, Melvin. I know you're there, dear. The, the wind finally stopped blowing. Oh, my goodness. I'm ready for the wind to stop blowing too, but the wind is an indicator, isn't it? The wind is an indicator, and I feel out the winds. I really do. You know, grateful to have those influences in my life because could have been a different story because it was dictated that that influence should have been something else, right? But because I was a spectator, because I got to judge for myself between the difference of right and wrong, right? You hear me talk about being a spectator and a participant. Sometimes we're too eager to jump into things, to jump into the mix, right? I get it. I was going to say, sometimes I don't turn the other cheek when I should turn the other cheek. But I have to say also, sometimes I don't turn, or sometimes I do turn the other cheek when I shouldn't, right? I think more often than not, I turn the other cheek. Sometimes I leave situations, right? Knowing better, knowing that I'm just leaving and it's just a different story, right? Where things can be ended in a good moment where people think well of you, right? Or when opportunities arise, they'll think of you and go, oh, so and so, right? But then when you ruin those relationships in your goodbyes and in your moving ons, right? You also lose those opportunities, right? Those those fine words and oh, I remember so and so, right? And those recognitions are gone. One day I'll be gone, right? 1,000, right? We don't even know who those emperors were. 10, 12, 13, 14,000 years ago. They were there, right? But we didn't have words in those times. We don't know who those leaders were. We don't know who those first influences were that, in their own example of good and of bad, got to be somebody else's example to choose from. And that's just how influence works, right? It's just a matter of, well, picking up things along the way, right? I'm creating the best human being I possibly can. Looks a little bit different than everybody else or anybody else, and it should be, right? And sometimes we do have to sit still. Sometimes we do have to be that spectator, right? And sometimes it's forced on us. Sometimes we do it out of our own fears and hesitations, right? But sometimes you got a lesson, right? And you know better. And you know that if you just pay attention, right, something will be offered up. And if something isn't offered up, something will slip, drop, or be overheard, right? And you can move with those things, right? It's not literally poking in other people's business, but it is in our hypervigilance as highly sensitives and as empaths that we do pay attention to our surroundings, right? We do. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that because I'm moving off of that track and I am with my thoughts going into the job that puts the roof over my head. I want to give right? It's one of the biggest days of the year, Dollar Day weekend. They need me, right? They need, they do, whether they know it or not. They need me this weekend, and I'm going to give everything I have, right? Grateful for that job that puts the roof over my head, that gives me that time to schedule my life the way that I do, that allows me to have time to do this, right? Yeah. So off we go. Start my work week. I hope everybody's having an amazing work week themselves. And if you're coming to a little bit of a unwind into it, I hope your weekend is amazing. Come hang out with us on Sunday night. We have a show and tell on my Chatters Live show that we do every Sunday night. It's pretty casual. Here it's a little bit heavier, but we unwind a little bit on Sunday. And Malvin here is one of the moderators on that show. And right, he's an awesome guy. Come in, say hi, meet him, right? I hope you're having an amazing day, Malvin. I hope your eyes are not getting dried out from all the dust that's being blown into it, right? From all that wind that was going on. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. See you tomorrow.